GPT 5.6 Luna. And then for another reviewer, it was spawned as a Opus. Okay, anyway, so here is the main thing I would like to show today regarding graph engineering. So LangAGI has a flow or a play concept for a while, where that exactly is you give a task to the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator will plan out an entire DAG, and then where each node here is a single agent run. So let's take a look at this one. Let's not follow it. So this DAG, it began as one single orchestrator, and then it planned out this entire graph, which we can see are parallel at begin with in 3-track, and then go down some circles, and then go all the way down to a critic. So in here, it's quite a lot of things within this app. For example, you're able to see the artifacts right in front, right in the app. So you would see like exactly what is the artifact handoff among the agents of what led to a certain decision. Because I do not trust whatever agent says, I only cares about the handoff and the artifacts themselves. And as they go, here. Okay, they didn't expand anything here. So LangAGI has a system where the flows are reactive. So for example, let's say there's some agents going on over here, and then as they are doing their work, they say, oh, this is a difficult problem that I cannot solve. They can escalate that to another agent, and then that will actually extend the DAG while just kind of let it keep on flowing. So this is a self-expansion DAG. So sometimes it began the DAG designed as a 19, and then when you come back and check, it might be like have 30. So that is the main gist of Line Studio as a observability platform. And I do want to show the operator. This one will use your cloud or codecs underneath. And then an idea is with complicated UI, I do not want users or myself to learn it. I would like some kind of agent panel or to interact and manipulate the app for me, where I only get the information that I need. So for example, I can say, well, let's say, what can you do? The cool part about observability is we're looking at the ROM right here that I just opened over here. And then, well, let's take a look when this guy finished. Which one did I use? Did I use Opus? Oh, yeah, I did use Opus. Okay, and then I'll say, what can I do? So I can read RUMs, I can read inventory, it will be able to see which view I'm at and tell me the information. So I would like to go to this play one and I'll ask it, so which page am I looking at now? And what does it do? What does it do? And what info can you tell me about the structure itself? Is it sound? Yeah. So yeah, that is the idea of it. And then the operator can also change the view for you. Can just say, show me whichever page. This might be helpful in very large apps as this grow. So yeah, that's kind of the presentation for today. And then all of this work, if they are not like naked Cloud Code session, like you directly open from the terminal, all of this are spawned by Lion MCP. So Lion MCP will allow any agent with the access to MCP to use sub-agent, to use orchestrated graph. So you know that Codex, other than the Codex Ultra, doesn't have the sub-agent features, right? But give it a line MCP, and then any codec session can do it. Put it to cursor, cursor can use it. All right, so that concludes it. Thanks, guys.
Great
All right,
job.
questions.
Yeah, hey, yeah, actually, I was building something like that. I thought it was going to take like 4 hours, and it turned out to be like a whole week. One problem I found is if you let the agents talk to, like, do you have a prefix DAGs or the whatever orchestrator agent creates the DAG, like
Um,
based on the needs?
both can work.
Okay, so I found if you let agent to create their own DAGs, and they tend to like create like they find some minute problem that like, so if you're working on an application, they find some minute problem, and then it launches like 7 agents, and they keep talking about it and try to resolve like something that's like it's not even relevant, and they spend like half a day on like doing that. I mean, that's uses a lot of tokens, but and it's also like it prevents things from shipping. So one thing I implemented the sort of like I have like I call it like air traffic control tower. So there is a limit. It's kind of like a Telegram. There is costs on messages sent. So like one agent can only send like 8 kilobytes of messages within like half an hour. And that actually it seemed like it worked. And another thing, I don't know if you looked, it seems like it's very big in Germany and Europe. There is a framework. It's called Jobs to be Done, and it's more like sort of like for the people management. So when there is a task comes up, like it go like you can assess according to that framework, do you really want to do the task? Like what's the cost of not doing it? Like what's the like what does it things like? And if like did you use any framework, or the agents just create tasks and just run with it? Like and it's
So underlying here, I'm using two systems. One is Kive, one is Language AI.
Mhm,
Here is ma So Kive is, let me share my screen
mhm,
again. I might be able to sh show something more interesting. Share, fail. Okay. So let me ask you to spin up the KV. Can you spin up the KV to our production DB? KV.
yeah.
So take a look at this, folks. These are my
Mhm,
long-running agents. They are
mhm,
in the terminal for a while.
mhm,
Let's just you can see it's been running for 9 days, and then it has
mhm.
40,000 messages. Let's take a bit too low. So all of these
Yeah.
guys, they have access to full Kive system, and then they
Uh-huh.
talk with each other. So that is how I keep track of tasks. And then the orchestration are kind of a task level thing or
Uh-huh.
project level thing. So if you have so for example, this re-architecture
Mhm.
orchestration, it is a single topic, very large scale intent
Uh-huh.
to get it done. But the line AGI the underlying guy that's behind all of this,
Mhm.
that one has a kind of get things done to-do list action,
Mhm.
and then we'll promptly keep on going back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
I
great?
mean, one problem I found, so do you test your, like, do you have the test suite here, right? Or do they, like when you're working on a task or like you creating some like software, like artifact, right? Do the agent test it?
So in Luggage, there are about 40 rows in the agent, and then
Uh,
so they comes with all kinds of flavor. A
right, right.
row, so you will have implementer, you have tester, auditor,
Yeah.
whatever those things, and depends on
Yeah.
that. That's the concept of a playbook.
Yeah.
When you have a certain kind of task,
Uh-huh.
so for example, if you're doing research that doesn't need testing, well, it depends on whether or
Yeah.
not you write codes about it. So that is, you give the orchestrator the task, and then you say that testing is required, then they'll just put a tester to the
Right.
DAG.
But what happens for me, like what actually, so sometimes testers find like very minute bug that you can just ship with that bug. Like it would probably occur like 1 in a million times, and nobody's because I was kind of running the whole thing myself, I never even paid attention to them. But they would launch like a 4-hour loop, like to chase
Yeah,
that bug
that's
and
your
fix
workflow.
yeah,
That's your
and
workflow and prompt logic.
yeah,
So
and
how I avoid that is by having the central guy kind of do a judgment layer.
you
So
do, and
the long running one inside Cloud Code inside Cloud Code the CLI, it does not just blindly execute anything. It will actually like, is this thing
you
worth doing?
okay, you do have it. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm looking. But you have your own framework, right? Or how does it affect? I
Line
mean, how
AGI.
does it decide if something worth doing and something is not? Like,
We'll be talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of lines of prompt.
oh, okay.
It's a gigantic prompt system that injects the right rule just in right time.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a like different. Okay, that's okay.
And what about the receipts? Ocean, are you tracking those like a database of what's actually going on behind the scenes, or
Oh
how?
yeah. All of this you just saw are read from my local database that includes I think it's like 10, 20,000 agent runs now. So all the data from Codex from Cloud Code are in there.
Okay, like all the verbose logging and stuff like that. Awesome.
We'll have absolutely everything. So usages, which model, which message, which model, you can see everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
nice.
All right, any
Transparency,
more questions?
No,
I have a
but I
quick
mean, one
question.
thing I noticed, your messages were kind of verbose still, like the ones you showed, and that's. I mean, if people
What
want
do you
to.
mean?
I mean, do you want to see how mine look like? And I mean, is it time or like are we
yeah,
pressing?
Vlad. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so I can show because it's nothing is running. I always do this ad hoc shows, right? So that's the result. I probably don't have. Let me share the screen.
Should come through to Martin.
Share. Okay. So I had the prompt tweak and I stole stuff. Yeah, so this is basically the whole system, and this is what agents talk to each other. And I don't know, recently I started to like only doing the text ones. And basically, if you see like there is okay, you see it, yeah, because the zoom's blocking my view. Like you see all the messages, they actually like they're very short because otherwise like that prevents like you see like I track the budget of how long each takes. And the messages they look like that, they're very like telegraphic because like every time there is a whole system there that if an agent sends more than like 2 kilobytes, it basically injects the prompt and says like, hey, talk shorter, and there is rules, right? So they use lots of emojis. They use like a very like telegraphic kind of things. Like so, like this is the like typical message when they run. They so that was what it's probably in 10 minutes. They're very telegraphic, basically. Like in the like so there was an audit. They completely yeah. And I noticed yours because that's how mine was talking. You have these pages because I think you're using Opus 5, right? Right now.
Well, there are so many models there.
Yeah, I noticed Opus 5 is so verbose like now, and it
Yes.
just injects, it just creates a bunch of dribble. I had to like reset it with prompts, and this is the results of that because they use lots of references. I actually stole stuff from Bradley. I like put the like emoji symbols and everything. So there is a vocabulary of emojis. So if there is like 3-4 sentences of like text, we just say use the emojis, like and so these are like how mine look like. That's what's gonna show that.
Neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a couple paths there. The work that a number of you doing with Brad, you're doing on the neurosymbolic, which plays a number of different roles, not the least of which is compression and efficiency, and the removal of ambiguity. I say, would that be a decent way to phrase it, Brad?
I've furthered the my research quite a bit further. So it's ambiguity is the one term. It's really making sure that things are precise, and it's actually more on the proof the proof side. So not just saying this is what I want to do in a very concise precise manner. It's having the proof so when the agents go through, if you have a daisy chain, they're able to actually quantify each step. So you need a simple loop or a recursive loop to make sure that the agents go all the way along. But I love what Ocean's doing. I'll touch base with you next week, Ocean, if it's okay. I'm up here in cottage country, so I'm trying to do a little bit of vacation. Got company coming in an hour, but I'm want to touch base on kind of the receipt side that I was talking about because I've just got something that I was just going to publish in the next day or two. So it might be it sounds like you already have everything. So, but like to see if there's something that I
You
can
mean
add.
the log and tracing?
Yeah, log tracing. One of the things is on the interpretation while still being precise and not your agent's not lying to you. So it's kind of a guide. Mine's a little bit more similar logging and tracing that you have, trying to grab absolutely everything. But it's more now. What do you do? What is the guide for either a junior developer, senior developer, or even in my case, when I send a report off to a client saying this is what the hell I did.
So when you orchestrate agents via line AGI wrapper, line AGI actually does a lot of things to it. It monitor the context in real time. So let's say the agent has some kind of escalation request or needs. It just needs to say it in its text response, and line AGI automatically spun it out, and then this agent can continue to run. So
Yeah.
all of these are traced in real time. Every single time there is an event, the system can react to it instantly. So I guess in
No,
that
that's
case, I can think of one like put a AISP translator. Let's say if agents are not natively very great at writing AISP, and then you get a translator there, well, we detect that, we intercept the resistant message, put it back to AISP when it comes to communication. Just some ideas. But they're
great.
like
But even your like your trackability, like being able to identify, because even as a developer, like it sounds like here's a bug or something that the agents just couldn't figure out. Well, you can find out the chain, what is the actual root cause without, in my case, like my case, it might be 20 prompts to try and find out a root cause. This, you're actually going through and you're searching a database
yeah.
to identify here's the root cause where everything branching off that. No one else can find that. I'm finding massive demand in the market for exactly what you're talking about.
So for agentic workflow debugging, especially multi-agent, I typically just have a cloud to read the historical log itself. I'm just like, that prompt is weird. Go read the log. That doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
I also have a VS Code version of this, which is pretty cool as well. It's good for that you can just read all the logs right there in the VS Code.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I made a little Sentry tool. It's public. Like, so if you're using some like Sentry, it's pretty good. Like if they when something crashes, if they dump or if they dump performance logs, like it can just read them. Like they're very like organized, and it helps a lot with debugging.
Yes, it's definitely very great for agentic productization.
Yeah.
Trying to
Right.
steer this a little bit towards to a kind of like a landsmith like in a way to help this go expand beyond a production like a development tool. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's being built on top of an enormous amount of work with Line AGI as well, right? And KHive. So excellent. Thanks, Ocean. Manduit, do we have your member from London here today? I'm not sure if I can spot them in the participants.
Yeah, I can see Shihan. Hi, Shihan. There you are.
Hi, hello everyone.
Oh, there we go. Right, Jihan. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Let me just share my screen quickly. Can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, so before I get started, bit of a background of me. I'm 22 years old and I am a degree apprentice, studying cybersecurity. Part of my job role is I'm a security consultant. So essentially, I'll get thousands of vulnerabilities thrown at me, and my job is to contextualize it in a business aspect, prioritize it, and essentially help with the remediation. I'll take part in, creating patching schedules, and just constantly monitoring all these vulnerabilities. So what Paleon is it's a startup that I am developing. It essentially automizes my job role with the power of AI. So I'll show you guys a quick demo. So this walkthrough, it's a guided sample. This is the same experience as the real product. So once a client signs in and runs his scans, this is what they will see. So this is the dashboard. This is the main overview after a scan is run. So as you can see, it says the number of findings that there are, the vulnerabilities, and tells you which ones are the most important. As you can see here, it says needs you. So this is where it's contextualized and shows the most important ones. Here it has the compliance readiness. Here you have a list of in what order you want to sort out the vulnerabilities, and there's a score trend as well. So every time you run another scan, you can see the trend if your vulnerabilities are going down, up, wherever it may be. So yeah, once the scan is run, this is the main overview. On the right, you have a little chat box here. So we'll get into that part later. But anything you want to ask about these vulnerabilities, you can ask Paleon. So this is the where to focus part. So here it shows what's being monitored, and this part is where all the thousands of vulnerabilities are contextualized, and they'll merge all the duplicates, they'll enrich the findings with EPSS and the known exploitable vulnerabilities list, and this is where the main brain is, and you can see it will show which vulnerabilities are most important, so priority order. This is the view of when the scans are being run. Usually it'll take about, depends on how big the system is. When I've been testing it, it's taken around 20 minutes to half an hour. But this is usually the overview that a client will see. And then after that, you have reports generated. So there's two engines. It will scan internal and external. Internal, it reads so you connect it to the cloud. It takes about a minute. So right now it's only AWS that you can connect with. And it will essentially read your entire infrastructure. It can have a look at your code repos as well, check Git leaks. So that's the external side, and then internal. That's the internal, and the external side is just it'll see where exploiters can attack from the outside, and it'll have two different reports. There's a board report, so for non-technical people, so your boss, for example, they will just see what matters to them. So what matters to them will be, for example, the fair rating, so how much money they could potentially lose. And then the technical side, there's a sample right here that I can show you guys. This is what a tech guy, so maybe a security consultant, can see. So I'll have a summary, and it says what to fix and how. It tells you the exact fix, where it is, the impact it has, and a score that it has calculated based on all the information it has.
And Sheehan, I'm sorry, I missed it at the beginning. Is this open source or you startup?
This is a startup that I'm developing.
Yeah, nice.
So next is the compliance readiness. So these are 10 frameworks that so 10 security compliances that majority of companies will need to adhere to. I can't show you on the demo, but once you sign in, you'll see there'll be a list of vulnerabilities that you need to patch or fixes that you need to do to help you complete one of these compliances. So it doesn't give you the certificate, but it'll make you ready for any auditing, so you can gain that certification. Next is the list I mentioned earlier, the remediation list. So it even has how long it will take you to complete it. It will organize it in a certain way, so you can track all your vulnerabilities, everything that you need to patch. And then here you can see the chat box, how the chat box works. You can ask it a question and it will essentially tell you what to do. Depends what you ask. Once again, this is a demo, so you won't get the full package unless you sign into it. And that's it. That's the walkthrough.
Nice, Sheehan. Very nice. We have a number of CISOs from around the world here on these calls, so I'm sure there's going to be some interesting insights or potential for you to plug into and get feedback with.
Yeah, cool.
I wonder if you've had a chance. If not, please feel free. Mark Derizic is the chair of the security committee with the Agentics Foundation. He's also based in London, so he's right there. What model are you using? Primary model.
Sorry, what was that?
What model are you using?
So currently I'm using Claude for the AI, and it's all sat within the AWS Bedrock.
Mm-hmm. And did you find a capabilities jump between Opus 4.5 and Fable for your purposes? Or can you not use Fable because it blocks you out?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, because obviously everyone's hyped about Fable, but because there's a lot of security stuff within this, I can't really use it unless I have to contact Anthropic directly to be able to get the permission. So obviously that 100% that is what my plan is. But as of now, it's stuck on the open.
Chihan, that takes Anthropic. I'm actually surprised how lenient they are in approving. It takes like 15 minutes because I think when there is a little form, like, do you get the little prompt when it says this is security case and we're not going to do it? It's just a form there. You fill it out and it's in 15 minutes I got cybersecurity like approval.
Oh, really? Okay. Then
yeah, it
I'm
seems
gonna
like
do that.
So, but it's kind of scary. They just given it out. I mean, it's not a big because I have much bigger problem with the biology, and I think Roof said the same thing. Like, there is no form or anything. It basically just says like go away. Like, but I also found Fable is not that it's only useful when you have a big mass of like complex kind of plans and everything, and it's good at realigning them and sort of cleaning things up. But if it's routine tasks, I wouldn't even like bother. Like it's.
But I'll 100% I'll have a look at that form ASAP.
Yeah, but it just like it takes like a few minutes and then.
Yeah.
Can you share the link on the WhatsApp channel?
Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, I was telling Vlad to share the link of the Anthropic Fable thing.
Oh, it pops up. It's personalized. So when you talk about cybersecurity, it says like, "Hey, we flagged you, and here is the link," and then you just click on it, and there is a form there. But it's a form specifically for you. It's not. It's linked to your account. Like they just generate them.
Good tip for those of us that keep getting demoted to 4.8. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, Sheehan. It's great, wonderful. Look
Oh,
forward to seeing you plug in
Shahan,
there with London.
yeah, one quick one. Quick one. Shahan, we were
Yeah.
hoping for something like, did you have any questions from the community? Was there something that you were looking for?
So essentially, I'm just looking for any feedback. So, would you trust this product? Would you let me, try it on any systems that you might have? I'm looking for partners as well to help me develop this. Yeah, so design partners. So anyone just simply just with feedback and willing to help me test this and create this product.
Fantastic. But drop your LinkedIn link too in the chat.
Sure, will do.
If folks are interested, they can reach out, touch them with you.
Cool.
Super. I see somebody I haven't seen in a long time. David Brace. I don't know if David, if you're in a spot where you can hop in, but good to see you there. How have you been?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing good actually. Got at Salesforce at their headquarters in San Francisco. Lots of stuff going on. Salesforce is moving to this headless 360 concept where they've decided that they're going to enable everything that is in the Lightning user experience as an API and as an MCP interface. So they they were sort of resisting that for a while, but now they realize that because they didn't want Salesforce to be seen as just a data source, and they want to capture all the user experiences and user interactions, but they realize that by locking people in, there's so many people developing agentic apps now that if they open up the entire Salesforce environment, which is like, I don't know, 20 different clouds: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Government Cloud, Slack, Tableau, Informatica, Data 360 Cloud, you name it, that they've got, they're a $40 billion company, right? So they can lock more agentic systems into using their platform by opening up the platform as a system of record. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through a big internal event internally to enable more API interaction. Luckily, at the third tier within Salesforce, at the infrastructure level, we've actually done that a lot. So we have a lot of secret APIs that weren't exposed externally to developers, but were exposed up to the user experience teams. Now we're just basically opening them up. So lots going on there. And then me personally, I'm actually working on. I've been working for a few years now on a stock trading system. I've done a big amount of work on semantic analysis, where I can actually read any stock you want. I can collect all of the news from finance.yahoo.com, which they're pretty strict about stopping people. They have a lot of anti-bot protection. I figured out how to get all around that and read all of the news from any stock and do full sentiment analysis on that industry standard sentiment analysis. Yes, and then I'm augmenting that out. I'm doing that work with my brother who lives in New Zealand, and so beavering away on my own personal stuff as well. Doing lots of stuff, man. And one of these days I'll do a demo of it for you. But I got to be careful with stock trading stuff, right? Because the SEC gets a little persnickety about people talking about using agentic technology to recommend and trade stocks.
Yeah, it is. There's some monsters in those waters, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know, I mean, there's certainly, applying the technology to marketplaces with real-time data and so much rich information surrounding it. It's there a lot of folks are working on that, so I'm excited to hear that how it progresses. Let me ask you real quick, how would you rank sentiment analysis versus published insider trading as rate?
So I've been doing a lot of research on this recently, actually, because I just wrote a huge big spec on this. And so there's a very well-known information theory around stock trading, in that stocks generally move based on the fact that information is published out into the public, right? So and so anybody, most general people, other than specific traders that work for trading companies, most over-the-counter traders are trading based on news and information that they gather in the public. That's how they make their decisions. And sentiment analysis is how that you generally do make that, how a general person does that. So sentiment analysis is actually really important. It's the general way in which a person makes a decision, makes a big component of the decision making to trade a stock. For example, I wrote in my entire system will read 100. Say you put in IBM, it will go and read 100 news articles from IBM, the latest ones, and then extract out just the pure text, do full sentiment analysis on it, get all the meaningless stop words out of it, and actually cache a copy of that in a lightning fast memory map database, and then do full sentiment analysis on all 100 articles in about 2 minutes flat.
Right.
So it's super, super fast, which is about, I don't know. And then I calculate how fast it is compared to a human being doing it. Generally, it would take a human being about a week just to read 100 articles. And then if they have to do sentiment analysis on each article, and then do a spreadsheet and figure it out and net it all out to a number, that's about a week and a half. And I calculate out, if you were to pay a financial consultant to do that work, it's about $30,000 for that week and a half's worth of work. So it's a pretty sentiment analysis, news and press release analysis, releases and sentiment analysis of that is a really big component of how general over-the-counter traders make their decisions to trade stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and there's a lot of PhD university theory around information theory of that. So it's pretty good. The internal folks that work at like trading firms, they have access to more tools and more information, and they can make decisions and do sentiment analysis before news is released. That's technically insider trading. So what they do is they spend a lot of time obfuscating their trades to actually split their trades up and do trades in dark pools, so that they can't be tracked by the SEC for making trades based on pre-information that they have for an upcoming news release. And that definitely happens. So I'm building a system now that actually looks for those patterns. What it does is you give it a stock that actually moved after hours or after a press release, and then you say go back in time and then look at all the trades for the last hour before the news was released, the last 2 hours, the last day, the last week, and figure out if there were patterns that happened where people traded before the news was released, and then you can train a model to identify those patterns. So that's what I'm working on now.
Right. That's trailing the technical or positional advantages of the big players by signal.
Yes. Well, you look at the news release,
yep,
right, and then you look at a stock that moved a bunch because they released news, and then you go back in time and you look at the institutions and figure out whether they traded it before the stock before the news release, and then you identify those trades, and you train a model to treat that as a trading pattern. Yeah.
It's a fascinating space with some decent upside on the other side.
Yes, yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, right on. Excellent.
That is. So that's what I've been up to. Plus, I try to hang out with you guys as much as I can. And there's lots going on here in Silicon Valley. I missed the Silicon Valley. Ruve was out here. I was way too busy. I couldn't attend, which really bummed me out. By the way, are there any videos of his event out here?
I'll have to check in. I'll have to check in with Jason and the team. But I think there was some local through the plug and play. But we'll find it. And there'll be another event, I think, coming up. I think they're talking September or something along those lines. So
Okay.
And also Seattle too. I don't know. I don't know if do we have Barry Hurd on today? I don't think Barry's able to. Oh yeah, there's Barry. I don't know if he's got. I think Seattle is coming up soon too. But always good to see you, David, and fascinating to hear what your projects are. I know there's a bunch of guys that are, you'll find there's like minds in the various WhatsApp channels on that topic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I need to reach out to some of the guys that are on at the Agentics Foundation that have done work in the stock trading. It's really information analysis space, because
Yeah.
doing the trades is easy. I don't need to automate trades and trade execution. It's
Yeah.
the information analysis. So I want to reach out to some of the guys that have done some of that work and see if I can leverage their thinking or some of their code.
Ocean had to run, but he is an
He's in that
official
space.
quant. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's a quant, which is awesome.
Yeah.
David, I'm going to put my LinkedIn. I'm involved with the company, and we're focusing on adjacent to what you're talking about. Nowhere near, nothing within the same exact vertical, but we're doing something else with regard to math and trading
Awesome.
and bad guyness eliminations.
Yeah. Thanks, Brett.
Nice. It is top of the hour, 1 o'clock. I do have, I'm back to back today, but let me just check and see. Martin is, here we go. We saw, let me just check here what our,
I have some. I can.
yes, we got.
I have something if interested to just bounce of the community on RVM.
Oh yeah, okay.
Basically, it's me playing around just to understand what it is. Shall I?
Yeah, absolutely, Madhweep.
Okay, fine. Let me just share my screen.
And then let me just ask quickly, Nick or Ofer, or when are you available? I can pass off the meeting links.
You can pass it over there, Rob.
Super. Thank you, Nick.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So, okay. Great. 1 second. Just need to adjust this window so I can see everyone as well. All right, good. That's good for me. So I saw Rube's post, I think earlier this week, where I don't have the post open in front of me, where he said announce RVM, or as I'm saying, Rube virtual machine. The premise being that agents don't fit into virtual machines. They need something that understands and how they think. He's positioning RVF, as we know, Rube vector format is the combination of everything that the agent needs. And I think he's positioning RVM as the governance layer around agents and the behaviors of agents. So that post is quite interesting. So I kind of just started playing around one afternoon what it is, and there is this code base here where I was trying to create like some hello world application on RVM. So I could understand the capabilities of the system and what it does, what it doesn't do. And so that's what the hello app here is. This is available for you to review as a Netlify site. I'll put it on the link. But broadly speaking, if I come down, as I understand, and I would really welcome inputs from anyone who has explored RVM as well. Please keep it interactive. For me, the way I'm understanding here is the fact that a question of, I think, if we look at it, RVM's bet is that AI agents don't need a fake computer like a virtual machine to run. They just need a box with a lock on it and a logbook by the door. So a partition, which is the box, the lock is the capability, and the logbook is the witness log. So almost everything else is machinery. So it's basically maintaining an immutable proof of what every agent is doing when. And I kind of heard echoes of like organizations always struggle like, okay, POC to production for agentic AI. And the questions from legal compliance, etc., the concept of an AI twin or like digital twin to how do we ensure, I kind of felt echoes of what our VM would be in an enterprise setting or the impact.
Hey, Mandeep, so sorry, like, I think your window, is it just me or is it for everybody? Your window is shifted. We only see the like a quarter of it. Is it?
Oh, you don't see my screen?
We see your screen, but I don't know if it's just me. I only see the quarter of your window. I think you.
Yeah, it's looking a bit. I got it too, Vlad. It's looking kind of weird. I only see the right hand.
Yeah.
part
Okay.
of it.
Much
Yeah,
better
that's
now.
better.
Yeah.
Because I resized the window midway
Oh,
stream. So my bad. Okay, so I guess you may not have seen what I was showing earlier on.
We
So
saw like a
basically,
quarter, like the right quarter of it,
okay,
I guess.
so this is the repo from Ruv about RVM, where he is trying to introduce the fact that agents don't necessarily need a virtual machine on their own, but use the concept of coherence, which is the energy in the system, as we have discussed before. And for me, like, to keep it brief, I tried to create some Hello World apps, and those Hello World apps were I'll come to that in a second, but we talked about the fact that agents need a machine, they need the right level of trust management, and basically a logbook of who's doing what, and then making sure the agents that are working together are closer together, so they, it's more efficient, and deciding what agent can do what, etc., and so on and so forth. So there are a number of crates. Those crates include, for example, these are RVM types, the shared vocabulary, things like who issues the keys, the logbook, which is the witness chain, obviously the RVM partition, which is the boxes through where the agents will operate. You can go through it. I'll put it in the chat. But this is what I was trying to do here. Here, for example, the first demo that I did was if, for example, we have a chain of actions that agents have done, and what is the possibility of making sure that it is immutable. So if someone goes and changes certain things on it, is it caught on? Again, something has happened to the diagram here. It's not showing what I was seeing before. And then the other point is that who mints the keys for agents to do certain actions. And again, I do not know why this is showing like that. Let me just change it here. Yeah, something has changed. Apologies for that. But there are certain so so if I go here, I mean, this is better maybe. So it was like the first one was the witness hello. So if you do a hello, and then if we change something in one of the records, then is it caught or not? Similarly, if an agent, for example, has only read or write permissions, okay, I'm on a wrong, sorry, it's really playing up for me here. Um, Read or write permissions, like grant once permission, can the system track through it? Again, I know it's going on a little bit about, so let me just pause here just to kind of capture the community's views on it, or if anyone else has been playing around with RVM as well. I'll take a brief pause. No? Okay. So I guess this is, I mean, I'll put my stuff in the link here, in the link in the chat here. Again, please have a look at it, and maybe next week we can have a more informed discussion with Ruby's here as well. But that is what I was been up to on exploring what RVM could do. And any thoughts from anyone about agent governance? Welcome that as well. That's all from me. Thanks.
So hey, Monvipa, so are you spinning up RVMs on your machine and testing them? Is that what you're doing?
I was just literally trying to understand Ruv's the Ruv vector virtual machine, I think is how I'm interpreting it, what it does, what its capabilities are, because it was a bit technical for me. So for me, like, to understand what are the different crates, what they do. And effectively, I was trying to validate my hypothesis is that does it solve the problem of governance of AI agents, what they do, how they do in enterprise settings? Because one of the problems everyone hears is like POC to production for many enterprises. And I think there is a concept of AI twins or digital twins, where you could prove beyond a reasonable amount of the, reasonably to compliance and legal functions, that AI agents can be given agency beyond just the productivity improvement use cases, but to actually do certain things in line with things like, the AI Act, or the, basically financial services, various acts about in insurance sector, we are seeing adoption. So how do you therefore make sure that you could backtest? For example, the Bank of England last month passed, there was this AI consortium, this meeting minutes, which says human in the loop is not always possible. So they want basically AI agents to be find a way of backtesting AI agents so that they could do certain actions without, which are more probably much more sensitive in production. So there are like a lot of regulatory, I guess, movement around finding ways of how do you certify. And this goes to the point of certifying AI agents as well. How do you certify AI agents to do particular thing? So just like probably we have homologation in the automotive industry, we would need AI agents doing certain things to be homologated. And then I just thought like what our VM was proposing here seemed to suggest in the control, probably was in the same direction. So it was me trying to
Yeah.
understand like that.
My problem is that, and I spend a lot of time in very large organizations like Salesforce, right? We have this massive infrastructure, virtual machine infrastructure, and I like, I like the idea of a VM, a virtual machine that is very optimized for agentic systems or agentic componentry, agentic machinery. But VMs have been relegated way down in the stack. They're like way down close to the infrastructure. They're considered part of the infrastructure now, whereas agentic componentry and machinery is way up the stack, closer to the apps. I'm just unsure what the real value is of a VM.
No,
Other than the
it's
fact
my
that
phraseology. I don't think RUV means virtual machines. I probably simplified to say VM means virtual machines. But the whole point he's trying to say here, if I share my screen one more time, is here we go, is the fact that they don't need a container or a virtual machine to run. They just need a partition or what he calls as a package, and kind of a logbook, which is cryptographically maintained, which is immutable, and therefore it's like it's kind of a more of a, it's out there to monitor what agent is doing what permission it has got to do what at what point. And also agents, for example, back to the coherence, he keeps talking about the coherence theory. If two agents are working together, maybe they need to be in the same partitions. The trust is more in there, but it's all logged. So, calling it virtual machine probably my bad. I didn't mean to. I just elaborated, but the key point is that here, as it says here somewhere, if I go back to the PRD into the README file, is where it is this one. What this is trying to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at the wiki, the GitHub for RVM, and he is talking about hypervisors, right? They're long running virtual machine. He does call them virtual machines, and it's a like, so I mean RVM is an abstraction of a hypervisor, of a type 1 hypervisor. So it's hard to figure out like to draw connections to the value of having a VM, other than like, yeah, you want to be able to, I find myself wanting to run agentic components in a nice little container, and I don't want to spin up a Docker. I don't want to run all these other VMs. I want just some super nice little light, like safe container that they run in. And maybe this is the concept that he's going for. Yeah, just trying to figure out what the real value is that he's pushing.
So here, for the machine, right? That's the ground. Then point is that packaging what may run at all. So should the boxes be rearranged? So what is the partitions, for example, should they be rearranged in the space that I guess maybe there's a graph or in a setup. Yeah, I mean, I don't see this as a container per se. I think would be like nice to hear from him, I guess, when he's back, what he means by this, or
Yeah,
where he sees
I think
this.
so,
But
because
my
some of these
hypothesis,
things are what Docker does. You can literally say what can run and can't run in a Docker image. That's what Docker was. That's this very first thing that Docker actually invented. Like, you don't have to have an entire OS install. You just have literally the few bits of libraries that you want to run to support your code, and you're done. But lightness is and speed is important. Like, I would love to be able to run my code in VMs that are super light and super fast, and like with minimal complexity.
so my diagrams have recorrected themselves now. So here, for example, the first demo that I was doing is that you've got a logbook and the logs, right? So I obviously have done a set of actions, and it's in a chain. And I'm trying to go in and manually edit a record's content. Like if I check that chain, it doesn't detect that a record has been chained, because chain is still the same three, say that 3 records in a chain. But if I check, for example, the signature of the record, it fails. So he's built in a check there to say, okay, no one can tweak with the immutability of what agents have been doing. So that was the first demo that was demonstrated. Okay, so this is where, and again, if you have 3 records in the chain, and if I reorder it, it still picks it up. So that's what one of his packages and the crates do it. That's the first demo.
Sure.
Then the thing is that keys that can only ever get weaker. So the hypervisor is minting the root key, right? And then is giving a weaker copy. And this goes by the policies of how you may want to run AI agents, the governance aspect, right? Say you give the agents only a minimum permissions and they read only. So reads are allowed, it tries to write, it fails. So policy comes into play. But then you could decide, all right, and it could actually self-certify that, because it does need to do something, but it writes in the logbook that I am self-granting a right to myself, right? So you cannot, you can only do it once. So that was the second demo, like I kind of did using Claude. Then this one, if I remember correctly, this was about, I still need to understand this a bit more. This is actually, yeah, I need to understand. There's some of these things I'm still trying to get my head around. And so on and so forth. There were 6 of them. So this was about the partitions, whereby 2 agents talk more, right? Then that means the traffic is currently cross-box, so cross partitions. So they're in different partitions. So can we bring them together? Should we split them apart, or should we merge them in the same partition? So back to the coherence topic that he keeps talking about in the system. So it seems to be implementations of the various aspects that we have come across. But again, I'll pause here, have a look, and maybe we can continue the conversation next time.
Sure.
Okay, all right. I'll stop sharing. Anyone else for today? Then anything else?
Yeah, Mandip, just a little sort of presentation note. Like, I noticed you using mermaid diagrams. I usually, when I put them on like public markdowns, I render them to the SVGs. Like, there is a service called Crocky. Like, you can ask Claude, because that way, because when you have too many mermaids, they crash your browser, or like they kind of look. But if you just use it's just GitHub's rendering of like mermaids. It's weird, but if you just run them through Crocky, just ask Claude to just do it for you. And
what is it called? Can you type it on the chat, Vlad?
Crocky is this service. Yeah, I usually run my own, but there is a public one. It's and I'll put it. Let me find it.
Right. Just a general question for those of you in the enterprises, like what are you seeing or hearing about, organizations in the SDLC cycle or in operations? Like how is agentic AI being actually adopted? I mean, we all use Terminal and Claude directly. Like, what's your experience of what is happening within the enterprises?
I mean, I think maybe if I showed you privately, we're like all in on that. But I mean,
Yeah.
we startup and we are not in super regulated place because I worked at like other places that lots of stuff what we do in that would be just immediately stopped. But one thing I found, like there is certain software, because one thing is I kind of rethinking how this software is even needs to be written, because the original one is you make the app like very generic, right? And then actually let me rethink. So what's our problem, right? So there are two types of software, right? So there is something like Google Sheets, like so it has no like any kind of connection to any business process, but in 10-15 minutes you can make a Google spreadsheet that like basically drives your business process. And that is a problem with that. People create them, and it's after like few weeks to like after 6 months it's guaranteed to be a mess, like because there was million spreadsheets and there is like nobody can make things right. And there is very ossified sort of processes, like you sell chickens, right? So you could go and buy like SAP chicken farm, and everything process it's very like rigid, and the app basically drives it, and there is things like and I think they both don't really work, because like how the enterprise businesses work, things change all the time, right? But you want to drive. So I find the cloud and agentic AIs, especially like we do deal with a lot of lab people, that they are pretty good at making structure out of the big mess, or you can just follow the cloud, like make it follow the process how people create a Google spread. That's my software development essentially right now, is you follow this development of Google spreadsheets and what people actually do in real life. And then you start plugging little pieces, and you either like put it in the cloud sessions, and after that you put them in the scripts, and that creates a bunch of these bricks that like you don't basically stick the code and says like, hey, run my like lab workflow, right? You have these individual things, and we had lots of failures that traditionally they would be a big mess and like take 2-3 days to resolve. It's when people send to analysis and then things don't work out. They have to go like get new samples, like run back. And but because Claude is sort of like very fuzzy, it was able to pick up and says, hey, there is a mess going on, and it was able patched up, but it was also not driving the whole thing. It had enough bricks, like fixed bricks to drive like. So, and I think that's how the software should be, because I am in the process of getting rid of like Elastic on a bunch of like other SaaS things, because and actually stopped using any like email clients. I basically wiped coded the one for like how I work with email. So I'm thinking that's kind of a trend, is basically it's because so cheap now to create a custom software for specific causes, given that you have enough bricks like to do it. So that's I'm thinking how the software is changing. It's and maybe it's problem with the David and Salesforce, like that's the that's eating their lunch essentially.
Vlad,
Unless you, I think you actually on that bandwagon, right?
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time at Salesforce basically taking enterprise workflows and around Salesforce, all Salesforce clouds, and trying to agentify them. And man, you're right. So businesses run on workflows, and workflows are these processes that are kind of created by organizations or small teams within organizations. And you generally have one person that kind of invents a process and a workflow, and the rest of the people follow it. And that person is like a subject matter expert who's maybe been around and has all this knowledge about this part of the company. And basically what I'm doing is finding those people and trying to extract out of their brains those workflows and figure out how to build, and here's the word, deterministic workflows. Because if they're not deterministic, you really can't use them reliably to run a company.
But that's what I'm doing actually, because lots of workflows, they never deterministics because
Absolutely, yes.
but what the agent, they have these deterministic pieces that you can actually code, and then you can get the agent or a person drive the non-deterministic part, right?
Yes, yeah. So what I actually what I invented in Salesforce is this concept of what's called a golden checklist. And what I found, what I find, I actually went out and interviewed all these teams for this particular project, and I found that there were like 12 teams across all of Salesforce that were doing the same job, and they have their own methodology and their own process to do the same thing, and they all focus on different components. But I audited them all, put them all together, and actually put them into Claude and Gemini, and made one golden checklist, one golden workflow out of all 12 of them. And I asked them all to review it, and they all hated it because I had taken all of these 12 and created this golden checklist, this golden workflow, and they realized that they were all going to be out of a job, basically. And yeah, that's one thing that happens when you do this, is that people start to realize, oh, you're automating something that I invented 10 years ago, and that this entire part of the business runs on.
So that's why I'm sort of lucky that we're in a startup. Nobody, like, it did not exist 10 years ago. So that's nothing's been around, and people actually with so short stuff to like, so anything you automate. So I'm trying to automate things that people hate to do. But one thing is actually
that's a good place to start. That's absolutely the best place to start.
Yeah, and one thing you noticed, you interviewing experts. I've been doing it for a while. Lots of experts are like, there are two problems. So they kind of don't have the, it depends who the person is, especially in biology, they don't have very rigid workflow in the head. I mean, they do it, but it's in that global state that they cannot express it correctly. And when they do express it, they express it in a language that only understandable for people like in that very narrow sort of like business.
Actually, that's common even in generic enterprise space, business space. I find the same thing. Is they invent their own taxonomy and language within their team, and all their team learns it, and then it helps them optimize their workflow, their daily workflow. That happens a lot.
Yeah, because I was trying to, that's what's one thing I'm kind of like on a quest right now, is to create domain models for the processes. And when you talk to people, they think everything is special class. So like there is a fermenter, like there is big one and small one, and they kind of make it, this is like a different like classes of things. After like talking to them, it's the whole bunch of machines with bunch of sensors and bunch of like motors and valves, right? So there is not even a class for that machine. It's like you create class for like a sensor, and then you maybe like intention A. And to create a machine, you basically, a machine is just a big bag. Like you just say like, this is the machine, and you throw like, it has all this like actuators and sensors, like, and it never deserves its own class. Because I was looking and they were actually working with Claude, but they were talking to Claude in the own sort of narrow field, and it created the like the main models for them, but they don't jive with the rest of the enterprise because other people like they call things like different.
Right. So I will tell you, one thing was that this whole industry used to exist and it was called BPI, business process integration. That existed. That's what high-paying consultants would float into a company and document all your processes, and then sit down with Oracle and do Oracle forms for those processes and build Oracle apps for your corporation, for your company. That's what it used to be 20 years ago.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's probably going to disappear from people who know what you're doing, because we use some very expensive software that's essentially the Oracle like database with bunch of forms, right?
Yeah.
But if you work, and the problem with that, like for example, like a Jira, like you can model any workflow on Jira, like whatever you want, right? But the thing is so complex, and sort of your workflow UI becomes so clunky, it's like painful to use.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you do have the domain model that you extracted out of people's heads, you can just ask Claude to make like a very nice web app or the desktop app like that does exactly what the people need for this process, right? And it's
Yeah. You could do that.
So
Absolutely.
just on that point, I think what both of you alluded to, and I think David, you were really, I think your example you gave, the process, like three teams from your organization. I guess it's not just that it's not just the process, right? It's also the judgment and the memory of the practitioner within the
Yep.
process. So what I'm coming from when I thought about Roof's RVM, and also the point about I said AI twin kind of thing, it's generally, and we have had digital twins for like decades now, like every manufacturing has, but they are basically a twin of an asset, which is commodity. Anyone can twin an asset, but you see, processes, customer, businesses, this changes. So it's the behavior that changes. Currently, is in people's heads or thing. I guess for like I'll give you some stat. What I was talking about a Bank of England thing, right? So 3rd of June 2026. So the AI consortium it discussed model harnesses and execution boundaries separating probabilistic reasoning from deterministic systems actions, and noted that human in the loop may not work everywhere, making testing approaches like wargaming valuable alternatives. The New York Department of Financial Services, I think this was put a circular letter number 7 that requires discrimination testing prior to putting AIS or AI systems into production and on a regular cadence thereafter. So insurers are trying to adopt it. So at the crux of it remains the processes in organizations, and also, I guess, the judgment and the memory of a practitioner. I
Yeah.
guess I was wondering, like, this is where the governance and the law, legal compliance things come in. What are you seeing there? Like, I mean, in Salesforce, you're saying you're taking customer workflows, the second brain, as we call, right?
Yeah. So the couple
The
of things, right?
ontology.
So a couple of things is digital twins. So I had this epiphany a few years ago when digital twins started to be talked about a lot, was that the work I do in the enterprise space around agentifying workflows, I realized that there are these very few rare people in the companies that are subject matter experts about an entire part of the business. And what I was trying to do was create a digital twin of that person's brain and memory. And I thought of this concept of a digital twin for that person. That's a very sad, a sad result, because I'm basically taking everything that guy has generated over the past 25 years to become this expert in this company, and basically extracting it and creating an agentic system of him, and then giving him a pink slip saying thank you, here's your payout, goodbye, and then using that digital twin of him as many times as I can, and squeezing out like 100 times more productivity. That's how I thought about digital twin in this space for sure. So that's and I still think I still like that concept, although it results in a lot of people losing jobs, because you're digitizing really smart people within companies who hold and understand really big parts of the business. But secondly, governance relative to that is important, right? Because but what I find in a company like Salesforce is that and I've worked with a lot of banks, because I actually used to live in New York City, and I worked for all the Wall Street firms doing secret projects for them. So I know how they think about governance, and I know how their governance organizations work. The problem is that those governance organizations are so far away from those subject matter expert people and the digital twins that I'm building, that they never speak to each other. They never know about each other. So the governance is happening at some other level in the company, against other just sort of standardized processes that they're doing governance and compliance against, not against these new agentic subject matter experts that digital twins that we're building. So there's a disconnect between where the governance should be happening and where the governance actually is happening today. That's what I would say. So it's not, yeah.
This is going to only make it more apparent. It was generally in organizations, this is hidden. Like you do an ISO 27001, most of these are tick box exercises, right? But then when we actually going down, I think the big thing that will come out is like this is going to make things more apparent the more we want to adopt AI. and therefore we got to prove that it will align with, I mean, whatever shape of this governance thing takes in. Otherwise, we'll always see this, I guess, chasm between a POC and a limited AI adoption for,
Yeah, that happens.
CRO,
That
those who
chasm
actually using
happens
it.
all the time in Wall Street, and where Wall Street is, in where agentic systems are trying to be deployed, architected and deployed in Wall Street. There's this massive chasm between governance and POCs. Getting a POC on Wall Street into production and then getting it blessed by the governance and compliance teams. That is like a 12-month like event that every agentic engineering architecture team doesn't even want to think about. But it's you just can't. So what happens is that this is why most of the Wall Street firms are doing a lot of their agentic engineering and development themselves internally rather than use consultants, because they know how their governance teams works and they can grease the skids and make the governance happen faster rather than have a third-party consultant team come in and have to, and then you have to have someone brokering and having meetings, and it goes slower. So they're all doing their development internally because it's the fastest way to actually work with governance. But governance is like the last thing you think of. It really is. Security and governance are still the last things. Or security more so now is becoming more upfront, and RBAC and all that is becoming starting to think more about it when agentic systems are being architected and POC'd and then deployed. But governance is still like the last thing, man. Even though they have a very, very heavy influence, it's just one of the last things. And it's a big barrier actually. So I don't know. That's just I see it a lot in Salesforce. Our governance teams are very powerful, and they have very strong influence and decision-making power on everything actually.
I see what it's coming as OB1, Dorsey's actual argument. That's pretty, if you see, I think you've changed the profile picture for that. Corporate hierarchy has always existed to solve one problem. Oh, you've changed it. Solve one problem, routing information through organizations too large for any one person to oversee. If AI now does that routing, the middle of the org chart loses its reason to exist. True. Yeah. Yeah, but I would say like EU AI Act, right? I mean, obviously it's been moved out from August 2026 for the human risk management aspects, technical documentation, human oversight to 2nd of December 2027, but it is coming. So I guess there is, what I'm trying to say is that allude here is that the opportunity is in this space to find the concept, evolve the concept of an AI twin where you could backtest AI agents, take them through a certification process. So if you have an insurance, like today, I think many insurance companies you can call and the intake information is through an agent. So like, what is your name? Where did you have the accident? Or what did you lose? That is through an agent. But the actual claim handling isn't happening through agents. That's still manual. Underwriting and all of this, which can have an impact, is manual. But I guess that is what organizations want to go in. But to do so, we have to be able to prove that if you certify claim agent one, handling agent or claim underwriting agent one, that has to probably back test against 2 years of data to say, did it behave as a human would have behaved? And how would we therefore, because there could be harm aspects from it. I think that is the area where I think this is where I thought RVM, like whatever we call virtual machine or whatever, I saw that having a fit.
I don't know. I'm not sure that the VM is, because it's so close, far down at the infrastructure layer, and governance is in the other direction, man. They don't care about infrastructure. They care about these workflow decisions, critical workflow decisions that have extremely large ramifications. Which is not really has anything to do with the infrastructure, which is where what a VM is. And it's so hard these are very deterministic events, and it's so hard for agentic systems to perform well. that you've got to have a human involved. That's why all governance and compliance organizations are just lots and lots of people, mostly women, by the way, and all getting involved in how decisions were made. You know, you got to today. One of the big things that are one of the key topics is being able to audit trail how an agentic systems, what an agentic systems chain of thought and reasoning is, and why an agentic system made a decision to go down a certain path and come up with a final deterministic decision. Being that is what governance and compliance are asking for now, is auditing the chain of thought and the reasoning and the decision making. And it's like it's just not happening. It's just very few agentic systems can do that.
Yeah. Have you guys read, there was a paper from Anthropic about picking into the models and like how they come up with stuff? It used to be blog post, and now they make the paper and put it on archive. I can dig it up maybe if somebody interested. And I never seen 60-page like published paper before. Like it's something humongous, and it's kind of weird because it's based on the theory of like human consciousness, that there is some kind of global state in the brain that people don't have access to, and there is a thoughts kind of fall out of it, and then you into your consciousness basically that you can express.
Right.
And they claim that these big models, they work the same way, like so and they try to peek into the global state.
I don't know, man. I mean, I find those papers to be difficult to swallow, because if you read the other ones about how does a model do math, they invent their own math to get to the answer, and that's not what humans do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the rub is that the chain of thought is an approximation of how it's actually calculating. And so even if you log that, you still don't really know how it reaches its final conclusion. I think that's the uncomfortable part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also they, like what Vlad was saying, is this, they model it based on, they think the models are working, or they try to architect the models to work based on how they believe the human brain works. But actually, we don't know how the human brain works. So that's a flaw to start with.
Yeah, well, the examples that I'm seeing in the governance space is they're trying to measure for bias. You know, that's a very common use case where you're like, okay, here's a loan application. Here are all the pertinent details about the individual applying for the loan. When they got approved or denied, was any of their immutable characteristics used in that decision? And so they're looking at chain of thought in order to try to measure that aspect of it. But some of their testing, when I evaluate it, it's flawed because the chain of thought doesn't actually show the evidence of the bias, but statistical probability analysis does uncover the bias.
Right. Yeah. It's I agree. I just I find it where I exist in the Salesforce environment, this huge big organization, the governance teams are being asked to bless certain agentic systems that, but they don't actually, with their blessing that they give, they don't understand how those agentic systems are actually truly doing what they're doing. They're just kind of saying, yeah, we think this adheres to Salesforce's governance model.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant by a tick in the box kind of thing, like most frameworks that they are that.
Yeah.
But one thing, so with removing human from the loop, so there is the whole question of accountability, right? So like if you remove and let the agent, right, and agent does something bad, it embezzles the funds to like pay for its tokens, right? Like how would you hold it accountable, basically? It's
I don't know. And I mean, they all agents roll up to at Salesforce. All agents, there are only 5 types of agents we are allowed to have, and they all roll up to a VP. So ultimately, there's a VP will be, or an SVP will be held accountable for that embezzlement.
Oh, so there is a human in the loop, right? And then
Yeah, for accountability, for sure. That everything rolls up under of a team isn't allowed to go and create its own agent. If he has an idea, they have an idea. It currently, that idea, agentic idea, would have to exist under one of the 5 agent types. And then in order to bring that agentic system to market and to build it and allocate resources and everything to build it, you have to pitch to that VP, and that VP has to say, okay, yeah, yes, I understand what this is. Yes, I agree that this should be part of my agentic purview. And then he takes accountability for it. So then whatever it does, when they build it and deploy it, if it does something crazy and someone gets killed, he's responsible.
Yeah, but one thing, so there was a person, the Cathy O'Neill, she was even speaking out against like the previous generation, like this predictive analytics. Like they can create, like they can engage in discrimination basically without doing it explicitly. So they just learn certain things from the data that as a person you're not supposed to make this, like so like for the credit applications, for example, right?
We see it with resumes all the time. There's a few studies now that if you, and I hate to say things that sound politically charged, I'm not intending it that way at all, but if you present a resume as a white American man, you are more likely to get screened out initially by that early screening process, meaning you're less likely to actually land an interview loop if you are a white man in America right now. Just totally not expected, but that's the current measured study.
Wow.
Interesting.
But that's heavy bias.
It is, and it just happens to be bias that aligns with, DEI hiring practices, but it's probably still not good.
Yeah, I agree. It's not. What happens if you just, because there's always an option where you say, I decline to answer. What happens if you decline to answer?
They still can derive based on names and other details that are in your CV.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And there is a big one that the algorithms can use that it's like use of language essentially. So it's people from different groups use different word structures and things, and the model can inadvertently like learn that.
Can you confuse the model and say and lie about your ethnicity or your?
Yes, but you have to run, and you can, but you have to
If you do get the loop and you show up and you're different than what you represented, that could be problematic.
Sure, that I understand. Yeah, if I say I'm black, I am not black, but not the,
No,
or I'm Chinese, like
It's not explicit saying, and I think you can. And the only way to do it is you set up a bot that basically creates identities and applies for the jobs, and then you see like whatever the parameter. So it's basically parameter tuning, right?
Yeah.
So like how it constructs the sentences, how it does things, and then you can learn the set of parameters that get you through. And I think people doing it because I hear from HR people. I mean, it's their own fault because they put up these automated systems that were screening the applicants, and now the people can, like these large models, they can actually bypass the systems, and they end up with 1,000. So it's basically a typical person applies like 2,000 jobs, and HR sees like 10,000 resumes. So
it's difficult on both sides. I think it's a forcing function because of all the noise that I think unfortunately a lot of hiring managers are having to go back to, well, who do I know? Who can vouch for this person? So it makes it incredibly difficult to break into a market because you don't know anyone yet. But with all the noise, I don't know what hiring managers can really do to avoid it.
Yeah, because I changed industries like to biotech, and I had problem getting it. But once you get one biotech job, like then you can just basically like you in, right? And then it's And I think it works with any kind of industry. Like I mean, because lots of jobs I got, I did only very like rarely apply. They're like in the code, you just talk to people, right? And you just send like a filler on LinkedIn. But yes, and the hiring process, it's always been broken because the best people I hired, I pulled out their resumes from like reject pile.
Oh wow.
Because HR
Yeah.
was, I don't know what
Doesn't
criteria
work.
they've been using to select people. They were setting us candidates like, and they were like on that project. There was the most people I seen who were claiming degrees from these top tier universities that were actually they did not go there. And I don't know why you do it like, because if you want to create fake degree, you just claim it from some poly somewhere, right? Nobody's gonna like bother you. Like I don't know, it's. But if you're trying to, because people they've been outed like an interview because we had lots of people from these places and they were just asking some internal knowledge like about like the in US like there is top 10 like the Ivy Leagues they have a swimming test like and then you just ask like how, because like to graduate you have to be able to swim I think 25 meters like any style and any time and and lots of people did not know what you're talking about and it's like such a big deal at the school that
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
A bias, right? I definitely
Yeah,
it's definitely a problem.
yeah, it's a bias. I seen a lot on like on the credit applications. I think it's get flagged because it's very like regulated not to use bias, and the algorithms kind of choose it for their own reasons.
Yeah, back to an earlier question though, like how are people actually using AI right now? I'm starting to see an increasing use of AI that actually has the ability to run tools and make decisions. Things like money movement, things like booking travel. These are all use cases that are becoming more prevalent, which is interesting because, we as an industry, we haven't really solved prompt injection. And I don't think that there is a solve. Um, and so I'm wondering if this is the type of question that was being asked earlier when people were saying like how are people using AI in the enterprise? I'm seeing it customer facing now, and I'm seeing it dangerously implemented.
Yeah, I think there is two sides, right? So there is, and I'm kind of scared to go to the customer facing one. So there is a bunch of internal processes, and people just don't. I mean, they can do prompt injections, but usually they can just like physically go somewhere and do some bad. And so it's like in a high trust environments, that's like one case. And when you hang the AI model for the general public to use, I don't know, maybe David knows how to do it. Because
I
that's
was trying
like
to
a scary. I think like my favorite one. I don't know if Chipotle took it down. People were using Chipotle chatbot to as the free like token
Yeah,
source.
there was even a GitHub repo that lets you like hook up open code to use their interface through their APIs,
To
which is hilarious.
Chipotle, so they
Yeah.
we're kind
yeah,
of
that was like
So
at
you can probably do it with
Salesforce.
the cloud code. I don't know what model they use, but yeah, people ask Chipotle to solve the homework problems, to write the essays. So like it's
Yeah.
no, that is fine. That I understand. But if you look at like the topic of annex, it's a EU AI Act, right? Just put the link on the chat. So it is built on the scale of harm, right? The high risk AI systems. So
mhm.
anything that relates to like, for example, if I'm denied my mortgage, if an AI system makes for why, because it's going to have a massive impact, or health related. But I guess booking, travel, and other things, they are like classified low harm use cases. So
Mm.
I think the value really is in this more sophisticated, like, that's where the big money is made by organizations. It is like, and I'm just going to relate that to this point about what Bank of England said there in that June's 3rd, 2026 thing. Is like the consortium is saying they seem to be realizing that, human in the loop is not always possible. in the
Well, it
future.
doesn't scale. That's the core defect.
That is the problem, that humans in the loop don't scale. So you gotta like, when you're thinking that your agentic systems are making 10,000 decisions, business decisions a day, you can't have a human in the loop. You literally can't.
Yeah.
And if they're micro decisions, it doesn't matter. They're making 10,000 decisions. It's just, that's why it doesn't scale. So you only have them involved in very large decisions that have very large ramifications, like money transfer, or resource allocation, or stuff like that.
So which is where I'm trying to get here. I think the opportunity is also therefore, it has to be controlled. So it has to be certified. So an agent has to be certified to be able to do certain high risk activities. And therefore, that's where I think the ability to backtest agents. I think this is where the governance probably has to evolve, that we have to solve that problem. We have to find that. Because even
Yeah, so basically
regulators
you
are
have
saying this is necessary, right? They're also recognizing it. But yeah.
I kind of agree. At Salesforce, we're lucky and unlucky. We don't use a general purpose harness like Claude or Codex or something. We actually have our own harness, Agent Force, and we have Agent Script and Agent Graph behind that. And then behind that, we're using OpenAI models. So you can't do prompt injection into our system. Unless you're no Agent Script, and then it's hard to do that anyway because it's controlled in our harness. So Salesforce is kind of protected from that environment. Other companies, like one of our competitors, ServiceNow, does not do that. They don't have their own harness. They're actually using Anthropic as their harness, so you could do more damage in that environment, in a ServiceNow environment. But you can't influence the chain of thought and the reasoning and hack it in the Salesforce. It's nicely protected, but it's not very well known, right? Agentforce is only utilized by Salesforce's developer environment and internally by us and our partners. But that it makes it more secure because there's less prompt injection attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, in general. I mean, yeah, the rigid things, they make things a little bit more secure, because the way I work, I don't let agents basically lose on everything. I make very specialized tools that they will not, they would prevent doing destructive actions, right? So like if you want to like if you just want to read, like if it's read only, if you want to read the state of different machines, yeah, sure. Like, but if you want to play with the valves, like then they don't. So that's.
Sounds like you're worried about them doing some serious damage, man.
No, because we work this with its industrial settings, right? So we have this fermentation tanks, and they go from like 100 milliliter to like 50,000 liters. So if your 100 milliliter tank blows up, you just get to like mop it up and then you go with you there, right? If a 500 liter tank blows up, they close the facility for a week to clean it up. And I think if 50,000, so 50,000 tank, I don't know if you've seen very big brewery, or it's like
yeah, I have, yeah,
6-story height. I mean, the giant ones, like
yeah.
So 500 liter, if you go to like any microbrewery, like microbrewery with the bar, right? So that big one, it's 500 liter one, and the 6 stories one, it's 50,000. So when that one blows up, I don't know even what even is gonna happen. And that's the whole thing, right? And it's a risk because we blow up like 100 million, like I don't know, every month or something, right? So nobody is like. You just get them up and then you like clean them up, right?
All right. Oh, that's good, man. Yeah. I don't have that problem at Salesforce, man. I'm just like, but the problem is my systems are helping customers. A customer signs $1 million contract or $2 million contract, and then they have to onboard Salesforce to like 500 employees, and so now you have to train 500 employees and get them up and running and onboarded as quickly as possible. But that's going to take 6 months of those employees' time. So I'm building an agentic system to actually reduce that 6 months down to 3 months, and do it with a higher efficacy and higher quality output. And it ends, so that's the sort of system that the sort of agentic systems that I'm building. And enterprises, they value that because their employees, they get Salesforce up and running much faster, like, and with less pain, and their employees are happier, right? And they're more efficient. So anyway, I have to jump, guys. So it's great conversation. I love this.
Yeah.
I think unless there's anything, we'll close it here for today.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.